did a little bit of reading. Sorry, we're still trying to get. There we go. Hello, YouTube. Welcome back. We lost you for a minute. But
Hello.
Christmas decorating, that was so much fun. And
I lost you too now.
difficulties all like crazy. There? You there?
Now?
Okay.
Yeah.
You looked up for a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got some Christmas decorating done, Christmas shopping done. It was fantastic. Our temperatures finally dropped, so I was outside with the dogs a lot this evening. Nordy loves the cold weather. Abigail hates, but she's 7 pounds. So she has these hot pink little fluffy Sherpa pajamas that I put on her when she goes outside
beautiful.
so she doesn't suffer.
That's beautiful.
It is. And then I had a fantastic Dave Ramsey meeting today. It was a Coach the Coach day. And I love being part of that organization. There's a couple of reasons why I joined that, got certified with Dave Ramsey and John Maxwell. And a lot of it's because it's so faith-based, and it's really what I align with. And today's conversation was basically this time of year, coaches are also getting very stressed out and having a lot of difficult conversations because our clients are really stressed out. And so it was just kind of a great reminder for us as coaches to also take the time that we need for ourselves.
Yes.
And to remember, that we are there for service, but that doesn't mean, to wear yourself out. And I just love that. And I love that every meeting that we have, we end in prayer. I think it just really grounds you, in what you're doing.
Yeah, that's great. I was saying that that's one of my favorite things of some of the business opportunity that I belong to, about insurance and stuff like that, because it's so God based and it's so close to my values. And it helps me also to keep grounded and continue growing in that process. So my day was really good. I have a very interesting week at work with a lot of adventures and new opportunities and growth.
That's
And then I
good.
have, yes, yeah, everything, something new is teaching you something new. So it's fantastic. And also I have the opportunity to complete 2 disc assessments. So I have to review it tonight so I can go to the debrief,
Yes.
2 of those people. And it's been eye-opening because every time you do that, it's like you know a little of that person in a deeper way.
Very intimate way because
Yes.
it's so personalized.
Yes.
And I love DISC because it really shows you a lot about yourself in ways that you don't normally look at yourself, and like you said, get to know other people in that way too.
Yes.
Love it.
And also allow them to be able to connect them. And it's so close to the topic that we're going to talk about today because it gives you tools about communication. So it's fantastic.
So what is today's topic? As a,
Oh, I don't know. Have you ever avoided a difficult conversation because you weren't sure how to approach it?
too many times.
Oh, yes, me too.
I'm
So
embarrassed to
tonight,
say it now, but yeah.
yes, tonight we're going to dive into the conversation that matter the most. Those conversations, the tough ones, that we many occasion avoid to discuss it. And in reality, it gives us so much clarity, courage, and purpose when we really address it. And more importantly, in reality, those are the type of conversations that we don't necessarily enjoy it,
No.
but in reality, those are the ones that give us growth and give you a step further because it's full of truth in many occasions. If we know how to handle it, it provides us a great success in growth as well.
Exactly. And I mean, it is the upcoming holidays. And so that was kind of what spurred this conversation, us to have this topic, is because a lot of people get together during the holidays. And sometimes there are a lot of difficult conversations that happen around these dinner tables. But so we thought it was a good time to introduce it. But honestly, any of this stuff can be used anytime, anywhere, in actually any circumstance, because we face difficult conversations in all kinds of ways. And, a difficult conversation can really vary from person to person or situation to situation because what one person thinks is hard, another person might not.
Yep.
Some people might have conversations at work that, they're like, I can have any conversation at work, but they get home and they're not able to have those deep, intimate conversations with the people that they live with on a daily basis.
Yes.
So I was actually looking up for a really good definition of what is considered a difficult conversation. And there's a book called Crucial Conversations, and it kind of defines it, and I think it's really good, is there are moments in discussions when opinions differ and the stakes are really high and emotions can also run really high and strong. And they're not easy conversations to have. I know I've had several in my life. And hence that's why I can say that there's been several that I've avoided, which is it's not a good thing, but as you grow and mature and learn, you learn how to do these things. It takes a lot of courage to do it. Yeah. But you can develop your communication skills and get better all the time. So, and there's so many times, so many circumstances that we can have them. Like I said, it can happen at work. It can happen when you're having to push back on a boss, or, not literally push back, keep your hands off your boss's people. But, if I've been in those, where you've had to stand up maybe even for one of your employees that work for you against a higher boss, or, those conversations that we have with our children, teenagers, our significant others. There's a lot of times that we'll have these conversations that aren't pleasant. And so that's why we wanted to bring this up tonight and hopefully give some people some skills and courage and confidence to be able to do these things.
Yes, I can tell I have faced so many difficult conversations throughout my career, especially I've been in both sides of the table. Some of the most difficult conversations when you're at work, it's when you've been let go or when you have to let go someone. Oh my gosh, those are tough ones.
Yeah.
Yes. But there's one of that conversation that really stand out for the rest of the conversations that I already had. And it was the time that I had to stand up in front of my crew. I used to run a production plan. And at that moment, I have to stand out and have that difficult conversation with my team and let them know that the organization was going to close that facility.
Oh, that had to be horrible.
Yes.
I haven't had it difficult like that for work.
Oh my gosh. It's tough because especially you get such a connection with those people. You understand how the hard work that they've been doing, try to keep the business at flow. And especially when you know their family, their story, and you build that bond, it's so hard conversation. And you know what the most of the difficult part that it was around COVID. And at that time, the uncertainty that I was around, it really put the energy in a very high stake. Right. So that conversation you haven't. The good thing is that at that moment, I was not just their leader, but that I was also part of the crew that were going to be out of business. So it was like we are all together because all of us were going to lose our job. But the fact of seeing other companies facing the same thing doesn't necessarily makes your situation look different. It's also difficult. So that was, I think, the hardest conversation that I had in my career.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, even if it's happening to a lot of other companies or places around you, it's still very personal because it is happening to you. Exactly. So I have only had to let one person go ever in my career. I've done a lot of but I've done a lot of coaching, and that is really difficult too, especially if you have, employees that are not happy with what you're having to say. Let's just put it that way. And so when you're letting somebody go, that's very difficult because you are changing their life. Yeah. And that's why I love the thought of having those difficult conversations before it gets to that point and giving people an opportunity. And these are some of the reasons why they matter, because having these difficult conversations can make a change. It can actually change somebody's life for the better or your own, because it can really address conflicts that you're having, whether it is at work, no matter what position you're in, whether it's with a workmate or, somebody that works for you. And especially in relationships of any sort, but intimate relationships, it can really make a difference on preventing misunderstandings, avoiding conflict, building resentment. How many times do we think things and get very resentful against people for no legitimate reason that we know of, because we assume and we don't have that difficult conversation? Oh yeah. So it really can. They are important, and when you do have them, it can really build those relationships and strengthen those bonds,
That is so true. Yeah.
But it also shows people that you have a boundary, because you can become very clear
Mhm.
on, you know, what your comfort level is and where you stand on things. And standing up for yourself can be a really difficult thing. So there's a lot of reasons why people don't have them. You know, I think one of the biggest reasons is overall, as an umbrella picture, is that you really lack confidence, whether it's in yourself, you
Yeah.
lack confidence in that relationship, or something like that. But um, you know, I apologize because Nordy's feeling all the joy of this cold weather, and he is playing in the hallway. So you might hear a squeaker, a growl, or a bark. Apologize ahead of time. He's having fun.
Yeah.
And he's also, for those that don't know, he is a blind dog. So he also might run into a wall if he gets going and having a good time.
Yeah.
So, but some of the reasons that people do avoid these is because they fear conflict. Nobody likes conflict. Okay, I
Yeah.
shouldn't say that. There probably are a few people out there who enjoy it. It makes them feel powerful or some way. But most people do not like conflict. And, you know, because we don't want to build tension, you know, or escalate a situation that might not already be great. So it's not comfortable to be in those situations.
Yeah.
I know one situation that I can run into a lot is money situations between couples.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and whether they have different mindsets about money, whether one's a spender, one's a saver, that,
Yep.
you know, most divorces are caused, well, I shouldn't say most, 20 to 40% of divorces, it's money conflict that is the foundation for what they want to seek a divorce for. Money,
That is a high number.
because people don't talk about it.
Yes.
And for all of these reasons, you know, sometimes there's shame involved, there's whatever, but that is a super difficult conversation that couples avoid, you know, and there's so much tension around money. So that's where financial counseling can really help. It can help you a lot because then I can help you have those conversations in a safe space.
Exactly.
But another reason I think is people are really afraid of rejection.
Yeah.
You know, people don't want to feel that they're wrong. They don't want to feel attacked. They don't want to be rejected. You
Yeah.
know, especially when you're in a very bonded relationship with somebody. I think that might be one of the bigger fears. You know, you don't want to damage a relationship that you've already invested in, and you're unsure of what's going to happen now if you have that conversation.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of reasons.
Yeah, you say something that it's so true. For example, like you mentioned, that combination of lack of confidence, fear of
Mhm.
rejection, and also avoiding those conflicts. But there are occasions also that people avoid those conversations because they make a conscious decision. They said it's not worthy. Have that
Yeah.
conversation with the results that you're going to get. But also you understand based on the time that I'm going to invest and my tight schedule on all the things that I have to do, it's a little challenge for me to have this conversation at this moment. So they compare between benefit, reward, and effort, and they decided not to have it. So when you having those, you avoid those conversations for those situations, you being conscious to make that decision for a good purpose, let's say, because you're looking for you pursuing a higher purpose. But the
Mhm.
problem is when we avoid those conversations because we don't want to face those emotions, like you mentioned before. And like I said, in my career, I have made several mistakes, especially when I used to be very early in my career. The good thing is that it teaches you after that to be able to do it in a better way and manage. I
Yes.
remember one occasion that it was very early in my career. Oh my God. Sometimes even mention, I feel ashamed. But I avoided a conversation, but it was not the best way to do. I remember I used to be a supervisor of second shift in a production floor. And my team always had the challenge to take the high hill, the high road to be able to
Yes.
get the numbers. Because when we arrive, we barely have product to start producing. So we have to prepare everything. And it took us like around 2 hours to set up the line and prepare everything to be able to start finally sending product to the finished goods. So since we start late, obviously we couldn't exhaust all the product that we produce. So we left a lot of good product for the first shift. So they were always outperforming us. So they look fantastic.
Frustrating.
We look really bad. So I was so frustrated about that. And I didn't even know how to manage the situation. So I decided to avoid the conversation and I sent an email to my counterpart. You can imagine that the email was in my boss inbox.
And they're probably like, why didn't you just come to me?
Oh my gosh. The good thing is that my boss was able to manage in a very good way. He called us and he helped us to create a plan to be able to we can have both good numbers and good benefit on that. But what caused me to avoid that conversation? It was immaturity, yes. It was early in a career. I didn't know. Also, I learned it's better having a conversation than send an email. You don't know what the email will stand up. And just because I had the fear, I didn't want it to damage that relationship, but I didn't have the maturity to be able to handle it in a way that could be beneficial for both. So I didn't want to necessarily face that other supervisor in a
Did you
sense. So
feel
I was
like you didn't have the
avoiding.
confidence then? Did you not feel like
Exactly.
you were worthy of facing them on it as a peer?
Exactly. So I said, now definitely after that, I said, I prefer, even if I follow up with an email, I prefer to have that conversation face to face
Yes,
because I think face to face, you are more mindful of what you said, but also the email, but people interpret the way they think.
exactly, because they can't get the emotion, the facial expression stuff.
Exactly.
It's kind of like all the
Yeah.
misunderstandings that happen over text.
Yes, that is exactly true. So, and that got me to think about why are companies or people avoiding having that conversation? What's the cost behind? So I started doing my research and I found that 70% of the employees avoid difficult conversations at work.
Really?
It cost the companies hundreds of billions of dollars lost
Yes.
in productivity, missed opportunities, and missing opportunities for growth. So that was just an example of a mess up that I did, but that is 70% of the employees in organization.
Well, and
But
I'm sure also they lose revenue because then they have people that are quitting
yes,
because they're building the resentment.
yes,
So,
exactly.
and
Yes,
I know that I had that experience, with being a career coach. When I first started in coaching, I would have a lot of people that were like quitting, and I'm like, well, why are you quitting? And it was because they're not having those difficult conversations. They just would rather quit and find a new job than deal with the situation.
you know what's the thing that in another job you may face similar situation because if you're not
Exactly.
facing at that moment, you were going to continue struggling until you've got the maturity to be able to stand up for yourself and speak the things. The most important thing is to do it in a safe manner, that be
Yes.
able to approach it properly. But I also wanted to mention that in the personal lives,
Mm.
like you were mentioned before, not having those conversations brings so much resentment,
Yes.
divorce, separation, lacking of friendship because we decided not to have those difficult conversations. So in the process that you were looking to, I think there's other things that it costs organizations and people to avoid those conversations. So it's highly costly in reality.
Exactly. But avoiding them doesn't make them go away.
Exactly. It makes
That's
it
the thing.
worse. Yeah, that's
It
the main
does.
thing.
And if it is a situation that you're holding on to these things, like you said, builds resentment and everything else, but your anxiety and all of that just grows. It
Yes.
doesn't go away. I
And
mean,
make it
like,
worse.
well, and you were just now talking about how years ago you avoided having that conversation and you
Yeah.
still think about it and feel like, what did I do or what did I not do? So
Yeah.
it doesn't go away.
Yes.
So, and
Be-
it can cause just terrible issues, aside from, like you said, all the stuff that happened at work and everything else, but, the personal relationships.
oh yes.
Can you imagine living with somebody that you can't talk to, especially when things get tough? I mean,
Yeah.
I can imagine it because I did it. I was married and now I'm divorced, but
Nothing else to
it's
tell. Yeah.
and it's hard.
Yes.
It really has an emotional toll on you,
Yeah.
and then of course, then that emotional toll, whether it's at work or at home, carries over to the other one. If
Yeah.
you're having all these stresses at home that you can't talk about, you go to work and it's affecting you there, and vice versa. I mean, how much of our work do we carry home?
Yep.
So it does. But there are a lot of things that you can do. First of all, you need to have those conversations because, like with anything, it's hard at first, but it gets easier the more you do it. I mean, think about trying to work out. You're like, I can't walk around the block. But if you do it a little bit every day, pretty soon you're walking a mile or two.
Yeah.
And having these conversations, the same thing. You're not going to get any better at it until you start doing it. And then each time you do it, you're going to learn from it, like you did, Nick, you were
Yes.
talking about, and now it's still never easy to have to do some of the things that you have to do as a boss or in life, but it does get easier, and it also builds your
Yeah.
confidence.
But I can tell you, it's like on a scale. Having after you have the experience and you start practicing, maybe that and a higher, more difficult conversation is difficult, but the conversations that you already kind of confront, it
Right.
makes it easier to handle because you are more skilled. So you're able to build that
Exactly.
muscle to be able to do it. So practicing that is a good way.
Exactly. And there are some things that you can actually do ahead of time if you know you're going to have these conversations. It's good to prepare for them. And I know that sounds a little weird, but like if you're, and I'm not saying to treat it like a speech, but in the thought process of preparing for a speech, it's a good idea to do that, to get really clear on the conversation topics that you're going to need to talk about. And you can even practice them. I know, again, that might sound a little weird, but it will actually build your confidence to really understand yourself and be clear on the message that you're wanting to send.
Yeah.
Um, go through those important points, think about them, make sure you're communicating them clearly, stay very focused. Let me see. Huh. Don't act out in anger.
Oh yeah.
That is
Yes.
something, we have a tendency to, and I think that's another reason why people may start to avoid them, is because we bring up topics and we're unprepared to bring up these difficult conversations, and we lash out in anger. We become
Yeah.
very accusatory.
Yes.
And I know for myself that I know that if I am having a difficult conversation and I raise my voice, I have now lost control of my emotions, lost control of myself, lost control of the situation. So that's why it's really important to be prepared for this conversation and know when to have it. Um, Also, if you're, I actually think going back a little bit, that to be prepared for it, you also have to be willing to have the conversation, to be willing to understand and work on a relationship, because otherwise, when you don't have the conversation, you said before, it's because you don't necessarily care. It's not that important to you. So if you're going to have a conversation because the other person is important to you, or the situation, I mean, you might be going to your boss asking for a raise, that's an important thing to you.
Oh
So if it's
yeah.
important enough to have this conversation, prepare.
Yes.
It's simple.
I'm going
You
to make research to do how to ask for a raise. And I'm going to look for YouTube and stuff like that to see. And I'm going to
Yes.
ask friends to be able to say, how can I sell myself? Yeah, to your point, that's
Yes.
right. It's
And
important
so,
to that.
that's the thing. A
Yeah.
difficult conversation doesn't necessarily have to be a life or death thing. It doesn't have to be so heavy that you can't breathe. It might be a very good thing, like asking for a raise. But, ultimately it should be for the purpose of understanding. So it's also really important not to use vague language. Don't
Mhm.
talk around a situation hoping somebody else is going to catch on. I know a lot of times we do that. We're like, I don't want to say the thing. And I'm just really hoping they get the point. They get the idea of what I'm talking about.
Or
And
someone
that's
else. Right.
not going to help you if you're trying to have a very difficult conversation. That's still avoidance. And I get it. And when you first start having these conversations, that may be what you're doing until you can get brave enough to just say it.
Yeah. Yeah.
A big one,
Yes.
failing to listen. We a lot of times go into these conversations just trying to make a point, trying to make them listen to us. But now it's not a conversation. Now it's either a monologue, a debate, or an attack. And you're not going to accomplish much that way. So you need to be willing to listen to the other person and not interrupt them when they're talking. It's really difficult. But again, if you are willing to have this difficult conversation, then you should allow the other person to have their point of view and keep reminding yourself that they're important enough to listen to.
Yeah.
So, and as you're going through it, look for solutions to what the problem is. Learn to compromise. And then if you guys do come to a solution, follow through on that. I think about like when your kid really acts up. I've had teenagers, and if you ground your child, you have this very difficult conversation with your kid about what they did wrong and how they're grounded. But now you have to follow through on the solution and decision that you made.
Yep.
Because it can't be like, I know I'm grounded, but my best friend is having the party of the year, and you're like, okay, you can go. But you have to stick to it, because otherwise now
Yep.
you're being manipulated.
Yeah.
So, it's really important to follow through on the solutions that you come to regardless. Maybe you're asking for a raise and your boss is like, I can't give you a $10 an hour raise. And you guys come to a compromise, you
Yeah.
know. So if you're asking for a raise or promotion, now you got to follow through and do the work that you're going to continue to earn that. And there's always a compromise if you're open enough.
Yeah.
So
I think that's so true. And that brings me to thinking about another time when I had to go to a difficult conversation, and it was also, I think I have several experience in the production line, because
yes.
in production you have to deal a lot with people, and it's so many emotions around the way. So I remember that time that one of my team member came and said that he complaining something about another colleague. So I decided to call the other person. Hey, come on, let's go, let's discuss, find common ground, and then find a solution so we can resolve the issue. I think it was not the right choice. When at least less expected, they started arguing right in front of the production floor. And I said, oh my gosh. So instead of helping and make it worse, they said, okay. So I stopped the conversation right there and I said, no, let's wait until both of them come down. And later on, I called them and I have a conversation in a more private space with both of them.
Good
So
idea.
I reflect a few things about that. One of the things that is so important that you choose the right time and place for you to
Yes.
have those conversations. Also, it's very important that you prepare a mindset for the people that are approaching in the right way. And especially one thing is that we sometimes have as a manager and even in a personal life, anticipate certain emotions. And I can say
Mhm.
my kids are an expert on that. When I arrive from work, and if I have a face that is not the regular face of every day, they have just one question. Before I even say hi, they ask me, are you mad? I just laugh and I say, oh my gosh. And just that moment, I realized, okay. And I kind of breathe and I say, no, baby, I'm okay. And then we start a normal day. But it's so important to anticipate and prepare for potential reactions. And that will
Yes.
definitely help us when we're having those type of conversations with other people around team members. Set rules, set
Yes.
expectations. People need
Yes.
to understand what is acceptable, what is not, the do's and don'ts, because they will immediately understand when they breaking one of those rules. And maybe you don't have to go blah blah, say, okay, we're going to have this conversation, but one thing is that we have to be respectful with each other. From the moment that that breaks out the rule, so with the conversation will continue, and that will help both of them understand how they had to manage the conversation. But going forward, that was early in my career. Not long ago, few of my team members also start having that issue between them. One person saying something here, the other person says something there, and say, "Oh my gosh, how I'm going to manage this?" I say, "Okay, I'm going to fix it." Instead of going and sit them down to discuss the issue, I said, "No, I prepare a mastermind, and we met every week to discuss
That's
about the
brilliant.
21 irrefutable laws. And after that, I gave it a disc assessment and then a workshop so that you understood why one person was saying this and the other person, okay, if I ask, that was like, for example, a C person running the quality, and the other person was focusing on training people. When
Mhm.
this person was trying to be more engaged with the people, the other one wants to follow the rules. So obviously they were going to collapse.
So you had
But
an I
once
and a
they
C.
saw that, yes, once they saw that, there was the team changed significantly. So
Yes.
we kind of evolve in that process and learning and having difficult, and not necessarily you have to face the conversation of you're saying this, you're saying that, but sometimes it's important to bring them together. That will help them also to align a little bit more as well.
Exactly. I love, well, we've discussed this numerous times. I love DISC and you love DISC too. And
Yeah.
that is a perfect example of how it can work. And, talking about bringing them together to see each other's point of view, I mean, that's the next point is to be empathetic,
Yes, that is so
because when
true.
you are having these difficult conversations, it's not all about you.
Yes, you said
Plain and
something
simple.
very important. Yeah, some like you mentioned before. be willing to listen, like you said, is so
Hmm.
important so you understand the other person, and remove the need to be right and focus on a
Exactly.
win-win solution. That makes a significant difference of how we can handle this type of conversations. Yeah.
And while you're having the conversation, validate the other person's point of view.
Yes.
And it helps them feel heard by
Yep.
you. And it also, to validate their feelings, it helps them feel safe. It really helps them feel important, and it builds trust and understanding with each other. And that's the
Yep.
only way it's going to get better. If you come off attacking somebody, you instantly go into defense mode,
Yes.
and then nothing's going to be accomplished. So,
Yeah.
also, again, stay
Yeah.
calm, which is hard to do. But it's so funny because it's like it all is a big circle, and it's like, other than being prepared, there really is no exactly right first step. It's be understanding, stay calm, but like you said, you got to choose the right time and place.
Yep.
Now, the hardest part, though, is because, like, what would happen to you is, they were arguing on the floor, and you might think that it wasn't the right time and place, but you had to stop it.
Yep.
And I guess the difference would be you could have separated them and said, "Stop, we're done," and then we're going to
And then
meet in 5 minutes.
yes,
But
when
see,
you calm
that's one of
down.
the issues that,
Yes.
like, with my ex-husband, and I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea, especially people that know us, because yes, we've been divorced a long time, and he is remarried and happy. He's a great guy now. We just, we were not good together when we were married, but part of that is that when we would get into a discussion, I am the type that if I start to feel heated, I'm like, I need to stop. I need to walk away. Give me a break so that I can remain calm. And he was the type that's like, we really need to talk about this right now. We need to get over this. And I'm like, now is not the time. And so those are, at some point, somebody's going to have to determine
Yeah.
which one's going to win. And so if you find yourself in those situations, generally, if somebody is a hothead or tends to get a little bit elevated quicker, then it would be on, the
Their
best
side.
idea for the other person to say, okay, I can give it a minute.
Yeah.
So,
And that goes around setting rules and said
yes,
having safe, it's so important that the people feel safe, because that's the
yes,
only way that people can open up. So even
100%.
in our personal life, we can set rules. For example, for me, when I come from work or something and my kids ask me that question, and we didn't decide it, that it just came like that, and they
Yeah.
asked me, are you mad? That is exactly for me awareness of, oh, I'm not showing my best version right now.
But those
I
are some
need to
empathetic kids.
readjust. Yeah.
They're
So
good
I need
boys.
to readjust my mind. And right away, it's like magic. But that's a trigger question that has helped us. So it's the
Yes.
same thing in other environment. We can have safe words to understand,
Yes.
hey, don't have the conversation right now. I'm getting to a level that I think I will exceed my emotions and I wouldn't be able to control like Phoenix. So it's better that we stop it here and we continue later, because
Yeah.
sometimes we say things that we cannot bring back. And that's hard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love the idea that you talked about having a safe word, and it's especially if you're in an intimate
Yeah.
relationship,
Yeah.
and it could be best friends or something. Close business partners. When I say intimate, it doesn't have to be spouses or
Yes.
significant others. But it would be wonderful if you were intimate enough to know that, to know each other's triggers and stuff. And
Yes.
I think that's
Yeah.
huge. And another way to not attack or make the other person feel attacked is to stick with I statements. I felt
Oh,
this way, or I feel this way when this happens. Instead of being you did and this. I mean, you're not looking for a solution when you start doing stuff like that. Keep it on you, what you're
yes.
feeling, all that kind of stuff, so that there is progress. And the other person, because I know, like I said, if somebody comes at me and starts saying, I'm like, whoop, we're not having this conversation right now.
I can tell you, for example, in my professional life, now that you mentioned that, I had one leader that really stand out from the crowd in an organization that I used to work. And he was the go-to person every time a difficult conversation was required with an employee with customer, whatever. And I think I remember that expression for him because he said, I don't know why for people it's so difficult to have those tough conversations. We just have to talk the truth, be open, listen, and find a solution that works for both. So he has a way to give the message because he was being genuine. And also,
Yes.
for example, the customer, he knew that if he come and he was saying that, it because he was look for a best solution for the customer, not just for themselves.
Yeah.
So he created a safe space with truth and encourage that give him that authenticity. And I really
Yes.
admired that from that person. So I always used to watch and just study the way that he was managing the conversation to see how the customer can come angry. And after talking with him in a peaceful way, he was able to come to an agreement and a solution that will be the best for the business for both parties. So it was tremendous good.
Well, I mean, it sure builds trust with a client if, there is an issue or something else happens and you're completely upfront with it instead of just lying or, poo-pooing or trying to whitewash the issue. And you be
Yes.
upfront with them. I mean, you may not need to tell them all the secrets of everything, but if you can be honest and say this and this happened and we're doing everything we can to resolve it and we'll have your solution ASAP,
Yeah.
then that lets them know that you are trustworthy, and
Yes.
that they can count on you and you're being honest with them, because if they find out otherwise, that
It's
can
the
destroy
worst.
your relationship totally.
Yes. And you feel ashamed. That's the worst part then.
That man is
That's
very blessed, and I wouldn't say necessarily blessed. He is very accomplished in obviously having had a lot of difficult conversations. He's very, again, must be
yes.
very confident in himself. But
Yeah.
like you said, being authentic and genuine is the key.
Yes.
And it's
Absolutely.
and it's obvious when you're having a conversation with somebody if you're coming off to just blame them and attack them, or if you're being genuine and actually wanting to keep the relationship.
Yes. That is absolutely true. So I think, and I would say some of the fine things that we concluded is how important is for us to practice on a regular basis, even those minor conversations, because we have to work on building the muscle to be able to be
Agreed.
genuine, authentic, build trust, and do in a safe and secure environment. Because John Maxwell has a phrase, I think it was John Maxwell that said, he said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So people need to know
Exactly.
that you care before they buy your message. So I think that's very important that we become genuine on that.
Well, and I think that's key also to being a good coach.
Ah, yes.
And the reason there are a lot of coaches that are out there to just make a lot of money, and that everybody has a job to make money. I don't have a problem with anybody making money, but if you aren't genuine in your reason for wanting to help people, it's going to show.
Yes.
And unfortunately, it probably won't last for long. But the
Yeah.
rest of us are going to make enough money to maybe survive, but we love what we do.
Yes.
How excited are we every day to get up and be able to do what we're doing? And it's been a long time since I've been able to say that. I mean, I've loved a lot of the core jobs that I've had and the teams that I've worked with, but when you're actually working your purpose and you're authentic to what God made you to do,
Nothing like that.
man, it's amazing. So, and then that care
That is
shows,
true.
and I think one
Yes.
of the hardest things about being a coach virtually is that you can't hug your people. You're a leadership
Yes.
coach, so maybe you're not going to
Yes.
be wanting hugging a bunch of C-suite guys.
Yeah.
I love hugging my people.
But I think this is a really good topic for this time of the year. And so we can start with purpose in 2025. So I really encourage those
Yes.
people that are holding on to those conversations to start peeling down and to be able to find a way to start discussing in a good way so they can
Yes.
find a better solution and remove that from their life and be able to continue growing.
Exactly. And then go into the new year fresh,
Yeah.
with all of those things hanging on to you that you wish you would have resolved sooner. But also
Yeah.
remember time and place, with a mouthful of dessert may not be the time to break it to the family of something horrible that you want to talk about.
Yes.
So, but like I said, we did think about how families all get together and that this time of year, a lot of those things do happen. So that's why we wanted to make sure to give people some tools that they can use in case that's the direction they decide to go.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a good
Perfect.
time to hit up your boss for a raise for the new year.
Oh yeah, so they put it in the budget for next year.
Exactly. Or money for a coach. We're here.
That is really fantastic. So what are we going to have next week?
Oh, next week I can't wait. Okay, the last week was great, and this week is great, but it's a little bit heavier, a little bit more serious. So next week, right before Thanksgiving, we are going to be talking about finding joy in the small things, because right now we're probably feeling really stressed about all the big things that are going on in our lives. So I'm really excited about this one to lighten a little bit.
Yes, I would love that because it gives us value. Those small things that really makes a difference in our life, even though sometimes we overlook, but
Yes,
the meaning
we
is
do.
profound.
We're
Yeah.
getting so busy right now. I know even for myself, I had a meeting yesterday um, with the financial advisors that I'm talking to.
Yep.
And they were like, we want to get you going and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I have so much going on right now. It's like I was looking at my calendar going every day, they're so busy, not just holiday stuff, but a lot of it is,
Yes.
so it is the time of year, start next week, to not get too stressed out about all the big stuff. Let's find some joy in the little things.
Yep.
So if you think that anybody would want to hear this, please remember to like and share us, subscribe to our channel, help us get this algorithm up. Join us on our Find Your Wise podcast Facebook page. We're really trying to grow that page because until we have 100 people on there, we can't live stream there. But the main thing we want to do is have a little bit more interaction with people, because
Yep.
we can do direct lives on Facebook, when we start getting people in there and set up times for that. So that'd be really exciting. So make sure you join us Wednesdays, 8 o'clock, and find us on wherever we're hopefully streaming.
Perfect.
We get the little fails up every once in a while. I got another one, but it looks like we're on probably Twitch, Rumble, and YouTube. YouTube is pretty much always the best place to find us. It's almost fail safe that we're going to be there.
Yeah.
And you know
So
what? Like last night, we're trying out some new software, guys. So every once in a while, we're going to pop up on on YouTube completely out of the blue, playing with the new software, and you get to see us do weird things like, is it working? Can you hear me? Did the intro play? 10 o'clock at night when we're half asleep.
yes, but it's fantastic because we are making this process not just serving you guys, but also making it enjoyable and to be able to pour into. Because also by doing this, we are also growing. So this is fantastic.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Well,
it's
everybody,
really nice.
yes, have a fantastic week, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
And don't forget, go and be brave and address those conversations because it's going
Yes.
to be a transformative in your life.
Yep. Start the new year fresh. Bye, guys.
Bye.